Cuba and the U.S. plan to hold a new round of negotiations in Washington this week, another step in restoring diplomatic relations. If successful, they could announce a date for reopening their embassies. It's a major shift in foreign policy for each country. Our correspondent Michael Voss joins us live from Havana. Michael, what grounds are there for optimism?
Mike, Cuba's major demand was that it be taken off the list of state sponsors of terrorism, and that is happening. It also said it needed a bank to handle its U.S. business. Its diplomats there are currently having to use cash. According to a senior State Department official, that problem has been resolved. We don't have the details. We believe it's a Florida bank. We're waiting for the Cubans to confirm this. But a Cuban foreign ministry spokesman has said that he believes the conditions are now favorable to restoring ties. If they do manage to restore diplomatic relations, as you said, this would be a major shift in foreign policy for both countries. Here are some of the factors that could be driving Cuba's move.
This year's May Day parade in Havana's Revolution Square saw President Raul Castro joined by one of his closest allies, Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela is Cuba's largest trading partner and provides much-needed oil on preferential terms, but its economy is in crisis. Now, Cuba is starting to look elsewhere.
Yes, Cuba needs a new patron. Cuba needs a new source of money. But by establishing diplomatic relations with the United States, or even lifting the embargo, Cuba is not going to get the amount of money that it's getting from Venezuela.
This week, oil-rich Angola's vice president was in Havana, while the week before, Raul Castro flew to another oil-producing ally, Algeria.
As well as oil, Cuba says it needs at least $2 billion a year in foreign investment if it's to revive its struggling economy. Now, Raul Castro is busy turning to both old friends and new.
He was in Moscow this month attending the World War II victory celebrations in Red Square, followed by a meeting with President Putin. Yet Russia's economy is also in trouble. China is providing Cuba with soft loans for imports, but has yet to commit to any major investment projects. The Europeans, though, are actively making overtures to Cuba and looking for investment opportunities. Last week, France's President, François Hollande, became the first French head of state ever to visit the island and was granted a rare meeting with Cuba's retired revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro. Now it's the United States which is riding the winds of change. Tuesday saw the first regatta where American yachtsmen were legally allowed to race their Cuban counterparts. The next round of US-Cuba negotiations get underway in Washington on Thursday. If successful, the old Cold War hostilities could soon be sailing into oblivion.
If Cuba and the United States can reach a deal in Washington this week, don't expect the embassies to reopen immediately. The 45-day notice to Congress that the Obama administration will take Cuba off the terror list ends on May the 29th, and then it'll take a couple more days to go into effect. But the White House also has to give Congress 15 days notice that it intends to upgrade the interest section to a full embassy, and that hasn't happened yet. But Mike, we are tantalizingly close.
A far cry from about a year ago, Michael, when you were on this broadcast talking about Zunzuneo, this Cuban Twitter trying to cause dissent within Cuba. And I know Cubans still kind of wary about U.S. diplomats and what they might be up to in the new embassy. Have those worries gone away? Are they still concerned about that? Any progress on that front?
They are concerned about that. They're worried about what the extra diplomats will do if they can travel freely around the country and talk to anyone, including dissidents. You mentioned Zunzuneo. That was part of what's called the Cuban Democracy Program. Millions and millions of dollars allocated each year to bring democracy to Cuba. The Cubans see it as a means of regime change. Now, the senior State Department official did hint this week that the United States, while keeping the program, will probably modify it, and they may do that to the extent that it's a slightly softer approach, less aimed at regime change, and that may be enough to convince the Cubans to go ahead with the embassy.
Michael Voss, live for us in Havana. Thanks so much.